Have you ever heard of shadow people? Why do so many people around the world report seeing the same kind of figures, these so-called shadow people? I'm going to do my best to try to smile as much as I can in this video, even though it's a creepy topic, but I'm going to try and smile just because I think I need to smile more. People normally have experiences with these shadow people or shadowy figures or entities, whatever you would like to call them, at night, are awoken, well, and they are awoken. They wake up. They wake up and they see these entities in their rooms, sometimes standing in their doorways, sometimes right above them, sort of like peering over them as they sleep. There's a lot of cases and a lot of people report seeing these things. It's almost like a modern day boogeyman. Sometimes they see more than one. Sometimes they see them wearing clothing. Sometimes they have eyes. There's a whole bunch of different types of these shadowy figures. Now, I really never believed in this, but as I grew older, there was this experience that I had when I was younger, in the first apartment that I lived in with my family, that kind of, when I heard about, shadow people and the experiences people were having, I couldn't ignore this experience that I had. That's basically why I want to do this video. I want to tell you guys an experience that I had, and I gotta get it off my chest just because I feel like I may have had an experience with shadow people. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but just hear me out, okay? Just give me a second to tell you the story. So me and my family used to live in Culver City in Los Angeles, in this apartment complex. What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? Basically, my whole family lived in that apartment complex. When I say my whole family, I mean like my uncles also lived in apartments down below us. My uncles lived in apartments above us. We all lived in the same complex. My brothers, I think, grew up in that apartment building. I'm not sure if they had the same experience that I did. If you guys did and you're watching this, you should let me know, because this is just something I've always been thinking about when I hear this topic about shadow people. But, so yeah. So I was young, and most of my life, I accredited these experiences that I had to being young and to having a young kid's imagination. And, when you're young, you see things in the dark. When I started hearing accounts or people telling their stories about shadow people, I couldn't ignore that my experience was so similar to what these people were saying that it almost really creeped me out. It really did creep me out. It almost didn't. It did creep me out.
We should demand that... Ooh. Now that's what I call a stump speech.
So, here's the story. I could rarely sleep well in that apartment. It was just something was super creepy about that apartment, and I rarely got a full night's sleep, and I was always afraid like something was watching me in that bedroom that I slept in. And at night, I would see these figures in my bedroom. And at first, I was so afraid of these figures. They would sort of be like, at first it was one figure that would just kind of walk around the room. And, when you hear stories about kids seeing things, and I mean, when I got older, I'll say even today in the dark, sometimes my eyes play tricks on me, but I can tell now, like, what something is in the dark. Like if there's a coat rack in the corner and a light hits it a certain way, it could reflect a shadow onto the wall that looks like the Grim Reaper or something crazy, but I know it's the coat rack. And I kind of knew that when I was young too. Like, that's the creepy thing, is that I remember going like, it's your imagination. Your parents told you it's just your imagination. The boogeyman's not real. Monsters aren't real. And I would look at this figure walk around my room, and I would think, I would close my eyes and reopen my eyes and close my eyes and reopen my eyes, and it would still be there. And I just kind of convinced myself that it was my mind my eyes were playing tricks on me. My mind was seeing things in the dark that weren't actually there, because that was obviously the explanation that my parents would give me. So that always happened. It was so hard for me to sleep in my own bed. Like, I'm sorry, guys, to my parents, but I always would go to their room because I was freaked out because there was this thing in my room. And when I think about it, the creepy thing is like I would see it, and even when I would get out of bed, it would like move out of the way to let me go to the other room at night. And it was like I didn't want it to touch me, and it was so freaky because I felt like it wanted to touch me. So that's how it started. And my parents kept telling me, like, it's just your imagination. And I didn't want to be like weak, so I would like try to make it go away by like looking at it and going like, this is my imagination, and if it is my imagination, it can't hurt me. But over time, I started seeing more of these things. So I started seeing more of these things. Now, I have heard stories of these dark figures or entities or whatever you want to call them, interdimensional beings or whatever, online. And now that I think of this story that I'm telling you and I start to play it back, I start to realize how really creepy this situation was, and how I think the only way that I could convince myself that these entities were not really there was because I was young. Because I feel like if I was the age that I am now and I saw that, I would know that it was an entity and not not shadows in the darkness or lights bouncing off the walls and making me see things. So when I noticed them, it seemed like they noticed me. So now I have like 2 of these things in my room. And the weird thing is they're kind of moving super fast. So they're moving like swaying, right? It almost looks like they're like going in and out of something, which makes me come to the conclusion or to the idea that I think they may be like interdimensional beings. Like, you may be seeing, I don't think it's a ghost. A lot of people think that they're ghosts or they're demons or they're aliens, but I think it could be actually something between dimensions that we're seeing, like a glimpse into another dimension, or just an entity that is not like us, that is shadow based or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's a dark matter. It's just dark matter. Because the creepy thing is too is that it looks like it has depth to it. Like, if you touch it, you can feel it. Right? It's not like if you touch it, you can go through it. It looked like if you touch them, if you would touch these things, you would feel what it was. So I would never want to touch them. When I'd get up to go to my parents' room, or I'd get up to go to the bathroom, or I'd kind of like look at them, or they'd get close to me, I'd get back because I wouldn't want to touch them. So I just deal with this all the time as a kid, right? I just deal with this, and I convince myself every kid deals with this. It's the boogeyman thing, and it's my imagination. Even though it still freaks me out completely. Completely freaks me out. Like, I was super afraid all the time when I would sleep in that bedroom. But I would like stand up to these things because I would try to like convince myself that it wasn't real, so I wouldn't let the things intimidate me or touch me or do anything. I would kind of like walk around them or sort of look back at them kind of like with a little kid's serious face. But I was just trying to be a strong man as a little kid, because my dad was just kind of like, you have to face your fears, and I knew that I had to face my fears, right? But here's where it gets creepy. So with me experimenting, sort of facing my fears and kind of trying to get rid of these images that I see in my room, I would rub my eyes, I would close my eyes, I would open them, close them, turn on the light, turn off the light. I would turn on the light and they'd be gone. I would turn off the light and they'd be exactly where they were before. and doing the same movement. So this just keeps going on, and I keep telling myself, you know, they're not real. It's not real. And every time I did that, I felt like it kind of got worse. Like I would see more in my room. And one day I got super sort of mad because I couldn't sleep. I was freaked out. I kept seeing these things, and I was tired of, you know, running to my parents, and I wanted to handle this head on. So I get up, and I see the figures, and in my apartment I had like a hallway that would go from my room to the living room where there was like a giant window. And I'm actually kind of like getting goosebumps talking about this. I'm kind of like cold. But I go out into the hallway because I see the figures kind of like walk into the hallway, right? And I go like, what is, like, I don't care what these things are. I'm going to confront them head on. I walk out into the hallway, and I'll never forget this image. It's like implanted into my mind. Like anytime, this is what made me bring this topic up, is this image. It never went away. Like the fear that I felt in that moment kind of carried on. It never went away. But I saw like so many of these things standing in my living room, and they were all facing me, and they were all doing that same movement. It almost looks like tribal. Like when you see natives doing like a tribal dance, it almost looked like that. Like they were all kind of moving and swaying in the same direction, but now it was like I could see clothes on them. Like I could tell like they were wearing clothes because I could see the outlines of the clothes. And the feeling I got was like they were there to take me somewhere. I just ran out of space there. I had to stop the story because I ran out of space. So I see all these figures standing out the end of the hallway, and they're all just swaying back and forth, and now I can see clothes. And it felt like, I swear it felt like they were there to take me somewhere, to take me away. And like at first there was one of them or two of them, and they were having a hard time dealing with this kid that was standing up to them. So now there was a bunch of them. And it was like they brought their whole crew with them, and they were going to, you know, it just felt like they were going to do something malevolent is the word, like something bad to me. And I freaked out. And I'll never forget that feeling that I had, because it was like, what are those things? They are not in my imagination. This is not my imagination. It was like, that's when it hit me, like, these things can hurt you, or they're here and they're literally standing there. This is not your imagination. So you better run. Run for your life. Here's the other thing that creeps me out. So that happened to me, that whole story, right, in that apartment. Once we left that apartment, that never happened to me ever again in my whole entire life. I never saw anything ever again like that. Ever again. You would think that some kid like that would see it again and again and again anytime he's in a dark room, because a lot of these people that experience that are actually experiencing sleep paralysis, which is what they say, so they're experiencing sleep paralysis, and they're stuck between a dream state and reality, so they actually are hallucinating and seeing these things. But I was never seeing them out of the corner of my eyes. I was looking right at them. I was standing up and getting out of bed. I was walking down the hallway. I was walking around my room, following these things. It never ever happened to me again. From there, from Culver City, we moved to Venice, and that was a beautiful house, and I had great experiences there, and I never had an experience like that there. I never saw those things there. So I thought that was super creepy, and when I heard this stuff about shadow people, and it just matched the description that I had when I was a young kid. So yeah, so that was just personal experience that I had with shadow people. I think it was shadow people. And I wanted to share that with you guys. If you've ever had an experience with shadow people, I want you to pause the video, tell me down in the comments below, or if you think that it's all just a bunch of bogus nonsense, let me know also down in the comments. But I do believe that they are interdimensional beings. I don't think they're ghosts. I'm not a firm believer in demons because I'm not a religious person. So I don't believe in demons. I don't know. Just the whole concept is crazy. It was so creepy how they were like waving. It looked almost like they were coming in and out of something. And I'll never get that image out of my mind. So when I hear these stories, I really do kind of believe these people. I do believe them. Maybe they are seeing something. Maybe you can't see it. Maybe they can see something that you can't. That's also another, possibility. But to just brush it off like hallucinations, I feel is a bit, of course, the scientific idea that, like we always need to explain it with science, and if you can't explain it, it's a hallucination. But what creeps me out is that I never saw them again. I never saw it again once I left that house. Another thing is that I don't know. I don't know what that was. It was just an experience that I had, and I wanted to share it with you guys. That apartment was so creepy. There was so many weird experiences that I had. That part of my life was actually kind of a creepy part of my life. Yeah. So later, I'll share more stories with you guys. But this was just, I wanted to talk about shadow people. I think it's a cool topic, and I think we should discuss it. Like, where do you go when you dream? Like, the dream realm, like, what is that? Like, and how do people have visions, and how does that, in their dreams, and then that becomes reality? I feel like that's a huge, like, it's like another dimension. And I feel like we should be talking about that. Any minute, I think scientists are going to come out and say, hey, guys, there are beings from other dimensions. There's things. I think it's super possible, and I think it's a cool topic. Being a fan of sci-fi films, I think it's a cool topic.